Okay, so today we're going to talk about fractions, adding and subtracting fractions. So what's a fraction that you guys can think of really quick off the top of your head?
3/4.
3/4. So a fraction is a part-whole relationship. And so when we say 3/4, we're talking about 3 parts out of a whole, which is made up of 4. Now these two have pretty specific names. Do you guys remember what they're called?
The denominator.
Yeah, so the bottom is going to be the denominator. And I remember that, like the denominator goes down, so it's on the lower part. And then the top one is going to be?
Numerator.
Numerator, yeah. So that's the basic of a fraction. It's just a part-whole relationship. And now you can do a bunch of things with it. So we're going to talk about adding first and then subtracting. So let's say I have a candy bar, right? And I'm going to cut it into 6 pieces. And I'm going to take 3 of those pieces. So this fraction would look like, what's the denominator?
6.
Yeah, 6 is the whole. And then what would the numerator be?
3.
3, yeah, because that's the part of the whole that we're taking. Now let's say I have another candy bar. And I'm also going to cut this one into 6, but I'm only going to take 2 pieces of that. And this one would be 2 over 6, right? So now let's say I want to add them together and figure out how many pieces of the candy bar that I have. So we would do 3 over 6 plus 2 over 6. Now since the denominators are the same, we're going to leave them alone because you're dealing with the same whole and you're just talking about how many parts of the whole that you have. So the easiest way to do this is to write 3/2 over 6, or 3 plus 2 over 6. Anyone tell me what that would look like finalized?
5/6.
Yeah, 5 over 6. And you can see that if we've got 6 parts, that makes 5 out of 6. Now let's see what would happen if we have 2 fractions with different denominators. So we'll start out with just a simple one. So 1/2 plus 1/3. Now if we were going to go back to our candy bars, this would look like 1/3 and 1/2. We're obviously not taking out of the same number of parts right now. So what we have to do is modify the denominators, or we have to modify everything so that we can take it out of the same number of parts. So we're going to use something called the bow tie method. And so we're going to start by multiplying across on the denominators to the numerators. So 2 times 1,
2.
and the same the other direction. So 3 times 1,
3.
3. And then we're going to multiply these across. So 2 times 3,
6.
6. So what we would get is we have 3 plus 2 over 6, which becomes 5 over 6. Now, if we divided this up into 6, we can see why that works. Like in our first example, we now have 5 shaded parts out of 6, which is the new fraction. The bow tie method is really useful, and it is actually exactly what you use for subtracting. So if I was going to use that same fraction again, so 1/2 minus 1/3, we were going to use the bow tie method. So what would we do first?
Multiply 2 by 1.
Yeah, 2, and then multiply 3 by 1, and then multiply these across, which is 6. And then we would have 3 minus 2 over 6, which would become
1/6.
1 over 6. It's the same sort of process. We can try it with a bit more of a complicated version just to see that it's actually pretty easy when you get down to it. So 4 over 5 minus 1/2. What would you do to start?
Multiply 2 and 4.
Which would be
8.
8. 5 by 1, which would be 5. And that's 5 times
10.
2. 10. So we have 8 minus 5 over 10, which would become
3 over 10.
3 over 10. Yeah. And because this whole fraction isn't negative, we're just going to focus on subtracting the two values. And that's how you add and subtract fractions.